tell me a little bit about your musical background, how you picked violin, any stuff like that.
So I started the violin when I was 4 years old. I grew up in central Wisconsin, a town called Wisconsin Rapids. My older sister, she's 3.5 years older than me. She's the concertmaster of this fine orchestra you'll see today. And she started to play the violin around the time I was born. So it was completely unremarkable for me that there was violin playing in the house. I just grew up with it. And at some point when I got older, I realized, oh, this is really something. And I kind of gradually learned to not take it for granted, and fell in love with the music and decided to pursue it as a career.
Kyle, what about you? How'd you get into flute and/or composition?
Yeah, so I feel like most band kids, or most instrumentalists start their instruments in orchestra or band in middle school, high school, so I had the same path. Took some piano when I was small, so I have been able to read music for a really long time, always been around music, and continued through college. I stumbled into composition by accident. In high school, a friend of mine was really into film and wanted to make a movie, and asked me if I would write some music for the film that never ended up actually happening. But I downloaded some music software and started plunking notes into a notation program, and realized that this is really cool, and this is fun to make sounds and to make music that then someone else could play or also enjoy. So I just stumbled into it by accident and then just kept going from there.
What are some of your, maybe not first, but memorable musical memories on your musical journey? Kyle, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this last night after our chat from yesterday, and my earliest musical memories are kind of uninspiring to me. I don't really remember some of the early firsts, but one of the ones that was really pivotal in my musical career happened in college. I was just hanging out at a friend's house, and we were music students, and we're all a bunch of nerds, so we were listening to classical music in our spare time, and they put on a ballet by a Russian-American composer, Igor Stravinsky, and the ballet is called Rite of Spring, and it's a really, really, really crazy ballet, and I was just dumbfounded that music could sound like that at all. So he happened to have the score off in the corner of his living room, so I scrambled over to the score and tried to flip through and try to keep up on where the music was, and then he pulled up the YouTube video of the choreography, and it's just an absolute insane piece of music with insane choreography. It's an insane ballet. It makes very little normal musical sense. I think at the premiere, when it was premiered in 1913 in France, there was a riot during the premiere. So audiences at the time weren't really comfortable with it. Even some audiences now aren't really comfortable with it. And it was just one of those eye-opening experiences of oh wow, this is what music could really sound like. So that was one of the really pivotal things in my musical career that made me realize what I could do as a composer. So.
Yeah, Rite of Spring starts with a very, very high bassoon solo, which was not common for the time. This is a family-friendly show, so I won't get into the plot of the ballet, but it's the people reacted to the choreography more than the music. When you remove the music, as Kyle mentioned, it just caught a lot of people's attention in a good way. Steve, what about you? Some of your memorable musical stories?
I think for me, the real formative early experiences I had in music was when I got to play with other musicians, whether it was in youth orchestras when I was a kid, making friendships. Being a musician, you spend a lot of time by yourself in a practice room, and it's not always great to be locked away practicing scales and etudes and all that. But yeah, getting to play with other people. And one thing that really stands out, the very first week I was a student at Interlochen summer camp in Michigan. I play Brahms' Fourth Symphony with Marin Alsop conducting, and that was the first Brahms symphony I played, and that really sticks out in my mind as an incredible experience. Really stuck with me.
It sounds like a lot of fun. So Steve, you're playing The Lark Ascending by Vaughan Williams with us. I actually found out that today is Vaughan Williams' birthday. So I'd like to say we planned it this way, but it was just a coincidence of events, and it's going to be a real special way to celebrate his special day. Can you share a little bit about the piece and why you picked it?
Well, I picked it because I think and I hope you'll agree after you hear it, I think it's an incredibly beautiful piece. It's really unusual the way that it begins and the way that it ends. There's these two extended sort of violin cadenza passages, and there's no meter, there's no bar lines in the music, and I think what Vaughan Williams is trying to portray, to try to make you feel when you hear this is, I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you see something, maybe you're out in nature, you see something that's so beautiful that you kind of lose yourself in what you're seeing, and you lose sense of time, and maybe you're like holding your breath because you're just kind of in awe of what's happening. When the orchestra comes in, that's when the meter starts. I feel like that's when there's the first real exhale in the music. So I think that's really what stands out is the way the piece begins and ends. It's just really, really unusual, especially for when it was written. It hadn't really been done before.
Cool. Kyle, you wrote a piece for us. I know you'll talk about it a bit later during the concert, but how did Radiant come about? How did you start writing this piece?
Yeah, so this is a conversation that we've been having for, I guess, almost 2 years now at this point. And anytime I talk with a conductor or a performer or a friend, and they're like, "Oh, write me a piece," I'm like, "Yeah, sure, okay, I'll get right on that," because I'm never really sure what's going to pan out and what happens, and so we just kept having the conversation, and eventually, Ryan was like, "Hey, so you're on the program, so I need a piece soon." I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll get right on that." So the piece, and I'll talk a little bit about this during the concert, but the piece is loosely inspired by the Minnesota landscape, the natural landscape that we have. I feel like when Ryan and HSO programs, we try to speak to our Minnesota roots, because what we do as a community organization is so important to where we are, and so I tried to speak to that sense of central northern Minnesota. So the piece references snow and ice and has all of these bright, shimmery sounds throughout the piece. So anytime I'm writing a new piece, you never really know where to start or what's going to happen, and sometimes I start pieces like 5 times before an idea actually sticks, because I was looking for something bright and shimmery. I already had a really good musical idea from a really old piece that I had written. I'd written this chamber orchestra piece in my master's program that was titled "And Then There Was Screaming," and as you can imagine, the piece ends with a big old trumpet scream right at the very end. It's kind of a mediocre piece, and so it lives on my SoundCloud, and that's fine. You can go check it out if you want to go listen to it. But there's like a 30-second, minute-long chunk right in the middle that I just really, really, really like. And it's bright and shimmery and shiny and has this really cool motive that just kind of gets stuck in my head over and over and over again. So I took that idea from that piece, and I used that as the inspiration to write the entirety of Radiant that you'll hear tonight.
Cool. What's your favorite part of the piece, or for the people that came early for the chat, you want to give them a little bit of insight? Kyle, we'll start with you. I know your answer from last night, but I'll make you say it again.
Yeah, there's not really one moment because I wrote all of it, and so I would say the whole piece, which is not helpful answer to give something to a new audience of what to listen for. But I think I would encourage you to really key in on the beginning of the piece. The beginning of the piece starts with these little solos that scatter throughout the orchestra, and more orchestral musicians join in on these little solo ideas. And the solo is probably like a measure and a half, 2 measures long. It's nothing very long. But the beginning of the piece starts in this very placid, calm sounds that these solos sort of float out above and over. So the melody that are in these solos are the thing that drives the whole piece. It structures all of the harmony for the piece, it structures all of the melodies for the rest of the piece, and it comes out in all of these percussion parts and violin parts and flute and clarinet parts. So I would really key in on the beginning, because if you listen closely to the beginning, that's the same thing that's going to be developed as you listen to the rest of the piece.
What about you, Steve? What should they be listening, other than your playing, what should they be listening for in the lark?
Well, I already mentioned the beginning and the end of the piece, which I think are very unusual and really beautiful. And that's, I think, what people often find the most striking about listening to the piece. But my favorite moment personally is, so there's about halfway through, we finally get hear the first like happy music, really, that you could say. And it's actually a theme that Kyle plays in the flute. That's the first time we hear the theme. Towards the end of the piece, that theme comes back. I'm playing it lower in register, slower in tempo, quieter. And I think what he's trying to have us feel is that it's like a really beautiful memory that we had that we're remembering and kind of feeling nostalgic about. And I think it's a really kind of touching moment in the piece.
So tune in for those parts, and then tell people to come early to the next conductor chats to get that special insight. Both these pieces we highlighted are really kind of highlight for me what I like to do with the orchestra. You've got masterworks by the great composers, and then we've got hopefully new masterworks or pieces that will continue to get played. Because if we're not championing the voices of today, I feel we're doing not just orchestral music, but all of music a disservice. We, all three of us, we are all very busy, active in music. 2 more last questions. I guess, Steve, I'll start with you. Are there any other groups, particularly locally, that people can hear you with?
Yeah, so even though I live out in California, I am here every summer playing at the Lakes Area Music Festival in the orchestra. If you haven't been to any Lakes Area Music Festival concerts, I would really recommend that you go. You would be hard-pressed going anywhere in the country, finding a music festival that would be, I think, much better than what you can experience here. So you're all incredibly lucky, and take advantage of that. It's like end of July, beginning part of August every year. Most of the concerts are right here, so you should go.
Kyle, what about you?
So I regularly play in 3 groups locally. I play flute and piccolo with Heartland Symphony. I'm also the principal flute player for Central Lakes Wind Symphony, which is one of the community bands that's part of Central Lakes College. That group does 3 concerts a year, typically. We do a concert in November, I think right here on the stage in Brainerd. We do a concert in December in Little Falls, where we were last night. And then we do another concert, I think around April, in Pillager at the CTC Center, Pillager High School. So you can come hear me and some of my colleagues and students play with the Central Lakes Wind Symphony. Otherwise, I'm part of a wind quintet. We play locally. We're a community group. So it's mostly comprised of, it is comprised of HSO musicians as well. So the oboe player, Amy, plays in our quintet. She's actually sort of the founding member. She pulled us all together. So thank you, Amy. The horn player, Jen, plays in HSO as well. And then 2 of the clarinet players that play with HSO also play in our wind quintet. Katie plays bass clarinet with us, and Max plays the soprano clarinet. Normally, wind quintet is bassoon, but we don't have a local bassoonist, and also I'm sort of attached to the hip at Katie, so we get to play together, and it's quite fun. So we usually do local community events. We play at some nursing homes and retirement homes. We're also playing December 12th at the Northern Pacific Center for the Off the Rails Market, so we're playing some holiday tunes there. So you'll see us at Jack Pine playing for fundraisers, or probably out in the lobby during the HSO holiday concert. We'll probably play some carols, or maybe we'll bust out the Nutcracker and play some Nutcracker for you guys in December. So you can see me lots of different places around the community.
Great. And then when we need to take a break from music, what are some hobbies you like to do? Kyle, we'll start with you.
So music consumes my life, as I'm sure it does all of us. But during the summer months, I like to garden. I grew a few tomatoes and zucchinis and some herbs, and I like to cook with all of those things. So Katie's very happy that I cook for her all the time. So I like to cook, I like to garden, and then with whatever spare time I have left, I play video games. I'm a big old nerd. I try to hide it a little bit, but that's what fills my evening and weekend hours.
Steve, what about you?
So, living where I do out in California, the weather's nice all year round. So I take advantage of that as much as possible. I get outside, I hike, go rock climbing, get up to the Sierras, do hiking, go to southern Utah. We really try to, experience as much as I can of nature. I also love basketball. I'm a big, big basketball fan. And I try to make a point of every year catching an NBA game with my dad. So we'll do that again this winter at some point. Go Wolves.
Go Wolves. And thank you so much for coming out early today. Thank you to my guests for joining me for this talk. We're going to clear the stage, be joined by a lot of fabulous musicians, and play some great music for you in very, very soon. So thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's performance by the Heartland Symphony Orchestra. My name is Tristan Heller, and I'm the president of the board of directors of the orchestra. This concert is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board and the Five Wings Arts Council, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. In Little Falls, the Laura Jane Musser Fund provides additional support as well as many of our individual business donors. The Echo Kowalczyk Youth Concerto Competition is funded in part by the grant from Crow Wing Power Community Trust. This afternoon, we're going to be joined by the Brainerd High School Symphonia's Orchestra for a side-by-side performance. Thank you for your donations today and throughout the year to support HSO to bring a classical experience to Brainerd and the central Minnesota region. The orchestra always welcomes new talent and ideas. We invite you to participate as an orchestra member, board member, or volunteer. Please find that contact information in the program for today's concert. Out of consideration for our fellow audience members, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and any other noise-making devices. Enjoy the concert. One note about our program today is that we are changing the program order slightly. We are going to perform the Elgar Pomp and Circumstance first, and then followed by the Radiant by Brown. Now, if you are able, please rise for the playing of our national anthem, and please welcome our music director, Ryan Weber.
thank you so much for being with us today. My name's Ryan Weber. I'm the music director and conductor of the Heartland Symphony. We're thrilled to kick off our 49th season with all of you. To those of you joining us on the live stream, thank you for being with us as well. That first piece you heard was by Edward Elgar. It's one of his pomp and circumstance marches. If you have attended a high school or college graduation, you are probably familiar with his first march, and probably one of his more popular works, and it's used as graduates walk to receive their diplomas. So that's a great piece. We enjoyed working on it. Next, we have a really special treat for you. We have the world premiere. Actually, the world premiere was last night, but it's world premiere weekend of a piece by one of our own, Dr. Kyle Brown, who teaches composition and a lot of other classes at CLC, and he's also a colleague at Bemidji State University. And so I'd like to invite Dr. Brown to the stage to share a little bit about his piece. Welcome.
Thanks, Ryan. I don't even know where to start, and I had to practice at this yesterday. This piece has been in the making for a long time. Me and Ryan have been talking about this for almost off and on for 2 years now, and I'm really excited that it's come to full fruition. This piece, Radiant, is really special to me because I got to write it for this group. It's specifically written for the Heartland Symphony Orchestra. And it's a privilege to play with all these musicians on stage, and truly an honor that they have trusted me enough to write them music that they also had to learn and play. So the piece is divided into 3 sections, and there's a few program notes in your program about it. I think one of the things that makes Heartland Symphony Orchestra special, and Ryan's programming special, is his commitment to what makes Minnesota unique. And I feel like some groups and some orchestras across the nation always do standards, and that's great, and we love that. But I think Ryan's programming is really interesting because he does those standards, as you will hear some later tonight, but he also tries to target what makes us as northern Minnesotans, central Minnesotans, something that speaks to our community. So that's really nice and special. Now, I grew up in the South. I know you can't tell by my accent. I've worked hard to get rid of it. But I've been up here in northern Minnesota for, this is my 3rd year, and something that I'm not familiar with until I moved here is the snow. I'm used to some cold. I've done some traveling, you know. I've experienced snow. I've been skiing before. But there's something different about walking outside in the negative 40 degrees and having, 3 feet of snow around you, and you're like, wow, I can't see anything. So that's sort of unique to me, I would say, and definitely not unique to all of you having lived here for so long. So this piece, Radiant, is really inspired by the natural landscape of northern Minnesota. And I think the summertime is pretty, and that's great, but I think what makes northern Minnesota so special really is how beautiful it can look in the wintertime as well. There's something really awe-inspiring about just having a snowstorm, and you walk outside and it's the next day and all the storm clouds are gone and it's just blue sky, bright and sunny, but still negative 20, looking at mountains of snow, piles of snow everywhere. And one of the things that really struck me, I remember I was driving down 371 between Brainerd and Little Falls, and all across that drive there's a bunch of farms that dot the landscape. And I was driving one day, it was right after it had snowed, and there was not a single cloud in the sky, and it was so bright, I feel like I could barely see anything. And I was like, wow, this is special. You may not find it special, having lived here and dealt with it for so long, but it's just so bright, and so clear, and so clean. And I wanted to represent that in music, because I think that's something that makes our wintertime here really special. So the piece, like I said a second ago, is in 3 sections, and the first section starts with a really placid, sort of calm environment. And some of the main motives and melodies for the piece are first presented in some trumpet solos, and then it's added to with some clarinet solos. And these melodies and ideas sprinkle through this first section, sort of like the first inkling of snow, the first snowdrops. And the orchestra gathers and gathers and gathers together, and eventually you get the full snowfall. And something else that was special, not special, something that was different to me, coming from the South, driving in Atlanta, they're maniacs, and you cannot drive like a maniac here right after a snow or while it's snowing. So the middle section is sort of like you're trying to drive through those snowdrifts, and you're really trying hard not to stop in the middle of an intersection or crash into a snowbank or the car to the side of you. So you hear that represented in some of the sounds of the orchestra. It's chaotic, there's entrances at all different points, there's instruments that sort of interrupt and play over each other, and it sort of feels like you really have to grip onto the wheel in order to keep the train on the tracks, as it were. It may have felt like that a few times during the first couple of rehearsals, but I think we worked through most of those things. The ending of this piece is really exciting. It really is those trains that keeps on chugging all the way to the end, and it has a really, really exciting ending that keeps some of those same motives and melodies at the beginning. So I set a timer on my watch so I wouldn't talk too much, which is always the composer issue. So I'll leave it there. You can read more in the program notes, and I'm happy to talk to you about my piece afterwards. I just wanted to say thank you to the orchestra for learning this piece. It's been a pleasure to hear my music, not only just by random strangers, but by those who live in my community and that I get to work with. So thank you all. Enjoy Radiant.
How about another round of applause for Kyle? So the next piece we're going to do, one of my favorite works in the repertoire. My musical training is on trombone. I wish there was pieces like this for the trombone in the repertoire. This piece would not sound the same on trombone, as I know you will understand after hearing it. The Lark Ascending is written by Ralph Vaughan Williams, British composer, and ironically enough, today is his birthday, and so I learned that on the radio this morning. So I can't think of a better way to honor his contributions to music and what he's done for us. And our guest soloist today is Steve Zander. He's based out of Malibu, California, and you probably have heard him before and not realized it if you've been to the movies or watched TV. He's active in the recording studios, and then every summer he's up here as a member of the Lakes Area Music Festival, so on this same stage as a member of their orchestra. And we've had a lot of fun working on this piece with him and getting to know him, and so I think I'm just going to let the music speak for itself, so please join me in welcoming to the stage Steve Zander. How about that violin solo? It's a real special treat to work on that piece, and yeah, the music speaks for itself. I'll just leave it at that. Next piece on the program, as I said, we're taking a little, British English journey. We did Elgar, we did Vaughan Williams. Now we're doing music by Ruth Gibbs, another English composer. She actually studied composition with Vaughan Williams, so we've got a neat little connection there. Sadly, her music went undiscovered for quite some time. No good reason, but I'm glad that there's a resurgence and interest in her music. She's written symphonies, ballets, operas, you name the genre, she's probably written for it. So this is a beautiful piece called Song for Orchestra. Features Amy, our principal oboe, and please enjoy our next selection. I've got two more selections for you today. You might see the title of this next piece and think, oh my goodness, what concert did I sign up for? Because it does, by title, sticks out a bit from the rest of the programming. But I feel good music is good music no matter what source it's from. And so it's called Video Game Fantasy. It's really only from one video game. So if you're a fan of The Legend of Zelda, you will like the next piece. If you're hoping to hear other video games, I'm sorry to disappoint. And as Kyle mentioned earlier, I love building connections to Minnesota composers, and so this piece was actually arranged by Russ Peterson, who teaches saxophone and jazz and bassoon at Concordia University in Moorhead, and it was premiered by the Fargo-Moorhead Symphony and Fargo-Moorhead Area Youth Symphonies earlier this year in January, so I think we're the second or third group to play this piece. So enjoy Video Game Fantasy, and then after this piece, I'll leave the stage. We'll reset before our finale. Thank you. Can you please join me in welcoming the Brainerd High Sinfonia to the stage? This collaborative idea for this fall concert started in Little Falls, I don't know, before I became director, and has continued, and we're thrilled to expand it to Brainerd High. And we have students of all ages. Some of them are really, really tall and never stop growing, but we're just thrilled to do this, end our concert with this piece. Before I play it, a few thanks. Thank you to the staff, Fran, Alicia, and that make the magic behind the scenes. Thank you to the board of directors for their support excuse me, of this organization. Thank you to those of you tuning in on the live stream. And most importantly, a huge round of thanks to the musicians of the Heartland Symphony Orchestra. It's hard to be an orchestra of one, and I'm so thankful that they share their Thursday evenings with me, and so excited for the rest of the season and beyond. Most important thing you can do, please tell your friends. We want to fill every seat in this auditorium, so tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your enemies friends. Just spread the word and bring someone here who you think they come for one piece, but they might leave liking something else, and that's really cool. So, and then finally, these concerts do take cost to put on. We can't do it without your support. So even as much as the cost of a cup of coffee goes a long way. Pays rental fees, pays salaries, pay guest artists, and if anything you feel you can give. There are baskets in the lobby. You can also donate online through our website. We would truly appreciate your support. Last piece, Ode to Joy, is one of the most famous tunes in the repertoire. Even non-musicians recognize it. It's by Beethoven from his Symphony, and we're thrilled to present this setting for you. What a great way to end this concert, and I look forward to seeing you in the lobby afterwards. Thank you so much.